Morning, everyone. Look at that. That was pretty quick. Thank you very much for, I feel like usually, right, you got to say, hey, let's get going. But I appreciate everybody being here this morning. And now that it's 20 after, we'll get going with our program this morning. Extremely exciting project to hear about. This is one from an economic development perspective that when you talk about adaptive reuse, looking at a former golf course and trying to find a higher productive reuse for it, I don't think we could have dreamed of a project that was quite as good a fit for this location as the one you'll hear about today. That doesn't always happen in development. So this is a really fun and exciting project from our perspective, economic development perspective, for you to hear about and learn about. And I'm excited to see how this progresses over the next several years in its completion to full development, and excited to get an update from Eric around where things stand today. I know many of you have probably driven by like myself and seen the progress, which from my perspective seems to be moving fast, but I'm sure Eric's going to tell you it's not moving fast enough. But it's one that I think represents that diversity in our economy where we have that balance of tourism, and this is one that again, we're exporting these tourism opportunities now because all the folks that will be coming in and occupying these likely will not be from the region. So that's all new dollars growing our economic pie, which is fantastic. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce Eric France, who's the managing partner with Hearthside Grove. And for those of you that don't know, Eric's going to go into it, but it's a high-end motor coach park that's being developed on the former Deer Lake Golf Course in Geneva. So without Eric, I'll turn it over and say thank you very much for being here, and look forward to hearing more about it.
Thank you very much, Greg. Appreciate that. I do appreciate being here and being invited, so thank you for taking a few minutes of your time this morning. I'll try to keep us on point so I can have you out of here on time. I'm excited about this project, and I shared it in a lot of different places. And so as I look around the room, I see, yes, I shared this much, oh, I shared that much. So it's a little daunting to think, I'm going to try to share something that all of you find interesting, but I apologize if there's a little overlap. So Hearthside Grove is a project that several years ago, as some of you know, I worked for Delaware North as the lodge manager, and Delaware North challenged us and me to think of new projects. And we had a lot of fun doing that, and that's how things like the cottages and the canopy tours came about. But the RV park idea came out of some of those conversations, but it just never got off the ground. Delaware North had some interest, but we just couldn't get far enough. And as time went along, I realized that, I was just ready for something new. Meanwhile, my wife and I, who have a motorhome, were traveling in Upper Michigan, and we, by chance, stayed at this place called Hearthside Grove. So we pulled in there with our motorhome. Fortunately, it was like late September because we felt like the Beverly Hillbillies. And I was glad that there weren't too many people there to judge us by our modest means of travel. But one of my daughters said, "Wow, is this how the movie stars live?" Well, I don't know, don't say it too loud, So we kind of slinked around. We loved the experience. We ended up staying for 5 days. We soaked it in, and it molded in our minds for a while. And then I had the opportunity to join up with a couple of local partners to see if we could make this dream come a reality. And over time, a partnership grew where we also then reached out to Hearthside Grove, Michigan, and said, "Would you like to extend your brand?" And they did. They didn't want to be an owner, but they wanted to allow us to use their name, and they provide some components to that relationship as well, especially on the development and the marketing side. So I want to walk you through a little bit about that project today, and in doing that, I want to try to convince you that we're not crazy, even though some of the people who've heard about this are sure that we are. But I think as you hear it and see it, it'll kind of gel in your minds the same as it did with ours, and we'll believe, I think you'll believe that it's a project that has some merit. The RV market, you may know, is booming. Since 2008, the last recession, it's been booming. It is somewhat of a recession, not quite recession-proof, but it's a recession-resistant industry because people love to camp. They buy vehicles. Recessions come and go. They can't use them. They sit in the driveway unless they're going to go camping anyway. So they have the investment already. So, but with '08 ending in that recession, and with the baby boomers, there has been dramatic year-over-year purchases of RV units, which I'll describe our segment here in just a moment. But this segment of the population, which is much broader than I would have realized before, and I didn't go look up the statistics, and I apologize, but there's a lot. There are hundreds, I think it's fair to say, hundreds of thousands of people who live in their coaches either full-time or a significant amount of time. And sorry, I said coaches, RVs, not all coaches, but there's a lot of transient traffic out on the roadways of America, people who love the lifestyle. And some of those individuals prefer to remain a little bit transient in terms of not having commitments in certain areas, but other people like to have a home base or more than one home base, which we're finding. So all of that in mind, we'll then learn, and I'll show you in a minute, that there's parts of the country is highly served by this opportunity, such as Florida and the Gulf Coast, and there's parts of this country vastly underserved, such as Ohio and such as the Midwest. And yet people like this area, and they like the use of their vehicles that they have an investment in. So we're tapping into that. Many of these people, or at least some, travel by Class A motorhome. And that's the target that we are looking at. Some people, I was at the Columbus RV show last weekend, and when I say to a person in the course of conversation, so do you have a Class A motorhome or a Class A RV? And there's confusion even in the camping market of, well, yeah, I have a Class A trailer. It's a great trailer. And there are a lot of, there's trailers are great. You know, everybody goes through a cycle. Tents are great. You know, everything's fun for different segments. But unfortunately, and it's not an elitist thing, it's just simply we are serving a demographic that travels by motor coach or Class A motorhome. So let me describe that just for a second to you. A Class A coach is a purpose-built chassis. It's a vehicle on a frame that was designed for a bus or a truck. Unlike a Class B or Class C, which are more van-like, a Class A motor coach looks like that one. And they can be expensive. Entry-level ones are in the $85,000 range, give or take, more higher than give, whichever that is. But up to $2 million is not uncommon. In our soft opening last fall, which I'll show you some pictures of our site, but we had a $2 million coach roll in. Take advantage of a couple free nights and see the area. I didn't know that it was as common as it is to at least have that $300,000 to $600,000 coach rolling in every day. But look at set up by I-90 sometime, and you'll in the middle of summer, and you'll start to see what I mean. And especially you'll be aware of it now as we've talked about this. I think here represents on this map an article put out by RV Share 3 or 4 years ago. RV Share, we don't even have to go into the topic. You're probably familiar with them, but they said, where are the top 75 resorts, RV resorts in the country? And they listed these. These are 75. I've come across a few since that I think probably should be on the list, but regardless, even when I did, they were always in Alabama, Georgia, Florida, kind of right on that point of the country. I never came across any up in here when I looked at that list, and I've searched the market quite a lot. So they said the top 75 are there. When you narrow it down then to which ones are exclusive to only Class A and have an ownership model, like Hearthside Grove Lake Erie, our project. And now you only have these, 20. Give or take, I'm sure. There's probably something we've overlooked. I know of a few in southern Alabama that I've learned about. So that's important. Second thing that's important is look at I-90 connecting Boston to Seattle, going through Chicago, supposedly the 6th busiest interstate highway in the country. The competitors are here and here, but the 6th busiest interstate is here. Over the last couple of years, I spent a lot of time counting RVs on I-90. It became an obsession for a while. I'm a recovering RV counter now. But when I was in the thick of that addiction, I was finding that no matter where I drove, it seemed like in the middle of summer, every 1 minute on average, you'd see a Class A motorhome all day long. So those people are coming from somewhere and going somewhere, but they're only 6 miles away from us. So we just have to tell them. It's created a buzz for us to begin the marketing process over the last year to tell people that we exist. So let me show you a little bit of a video here, and then I'll continue on. And this is a video about our project. I don't know if you need me to start the video, if you're able to. I'm sorry. On here I do?
Experience the good life at Hearthside Grove, Lake Erie. When we established our first Hearthside Grove resort in Petoskey, Michigan, it transformed motor coach travel. Now, we're reinventing RV travel once again with a new location in breathtaking Geneva on Lake, Ohio. Nestled in Ashtabula County, the new Hearthside Grove is a natural oasis for Class A motor coach travelers, offering a nostalgic beachfront full of charm, miles of wooded hiking trails, and an unrivaled winery experience right in the heart of Ohio's wine country. From snowbirds to couples looking for a weekend getaway to adventure-seeking families drawn to our gorgeous Lake Erie shore, Hearthside Grove is the premier motor coach destination. With amenities that include large lots for sale or rent, bungalows 600 to 2,000 square feet, outdoor kitchens and fire pits, our expansive grounds quickly become your home away from home. While our convenient Northeast Ohio location is close to downtown Cleveland as well as other major cities throughout the region. More than a motor coach resort, Hearthside Grove is a place to feel the cool lake breeze as you stroll through the adjacent state park. A place to find that new perfect piece of art. A place to make friends and memories that last a lifetime. So, schedule a visit and discover what makes Hearthside Grove Lake Erie exceptional. You deserve it. Hearthside Grove, motor coach living on the Ohio shoreline.
So we put this video together last January, presented the project at the Tampa RV Show January of 2019, and again this January of 2020, as well as some quite a lot of other marketing. And the response has really been phenomenal. More recently, some stories that just come to mind over the last few weeks. I recall the lady from Long Island, New York, who called and said, you're a day's drive away. We've got to come this summer because we may want to buy a place there. We have a hard time finding a place to use our coach, and you're convenient. I wouldn't have thought of us as convenient to Long Island. Similar story, a couple from eastern New Jersey drove over first week of January, had to see a lot. They wanted to talk to a salesperson. They wanted to see about maybe buying because the same thing, easy to get to, still working, owns a company, has a nice coach, needs a place to use it, doesn't have great opportunities of places to use it. So we're close. A few weeks ago, a lady from Scottsdale, Arizona called, lives in South Carolina, winters in Arizona, just can't believe it. This is great. Can't wait to come check it out this summer. Right now, our biggest website hits outside of Ohio and Pennsylvania, we're getting quite a few, but Florida is a giant one right now, and it's mostly because the snowbird market and their coaches is sitting in RV resorts in Florida right now with a little extra time on their hands to surf, and they're getting our targeted digital ads because we've bought a lot of names on lists of people who own motor coaches, and we're zapping their computers and iPads every time they log in and tell them about Hearthside Grove, Lake Erie, and so it's getting some traction. So we're pretty excited that it has potential long term. So a couple pictures here of Hearthside Grove, Michigan. Lots that are customized, owners buy them. They work with our construction team to develop that lot in a way that fits their lifestyle and also is cohesive with the overall resort. In this example, a lot of landscaping, pergola, and you can see a small bungalow there. Hearthside Grove, Michigan learned that their average lot size is 6,500 square feet, and they learned that the market wanted more. So they stretched it a bit in places where they could come up with 7,500 square feet on some lots, but one of the pieces they advised us on was to have larger lots. So our average lot size is 9,000 square feet. Some go up to 13 to 15,000 square feet, especially in future phases, but rarely is there one any less than the 9,000 square feet. So that's a fifth of an acre, and it gives an opportunity to construct on that lot in some customized ways beyond a small bungalow. So you'll see some pictures in a minute where we have bungalows up to 2,000 square feet. In my world, a bungalow isn't 2,000 square feet, but it just sounds nice, so we just say that. It is their vacation home, though, if they choose to build like that. Though in some cases it's their Ohio home. You know, I can think of one couple who lives in the Cleveland area. not quite retired, has a big house. The kids have grown and moved away. They go to Florida for months at a time, but they don't want to lose their Ohio residence. So their point when they purchase their lot, which they're waiting on that excavation to be finished up in that section, their point will be to build a bungalow there. That's their primary residence, so that when they're in the area, they've got that home base, and the kids can come over. So we're excited about some of those possibilities. Another view at Hearthside Grove, Michigan, a lot of inland waterways, a lot of landscaping and hardscaping. So these folks enjoyed entertaining. It's a resort setting where they're not inside so much as they are in that hospitality environment, hosting their neighbors, doing activities and events, and so they like a lot of that outdoor living. Key attributes of our location: we believe that it's fair to say the largest coach lots in the Midwest. We think it could be true for the U.S., but we've been a little hesitant to go that far, but I haven't found anybody who has that size of lot. The average lot size in Florida, where land is at a much higher premium, is around 3,000 square feet. So those folks are really thrilled with the possibilities. Other attributes: the only luxury motor coach resort along the shores of Lake Erie. Another is surrounded by a state park with all the park amenities that exist, from the beach and the marina to the nature trails and just that natural environment. And then this is a really big one. If you haven't zeroed in on that, we think it's a really big one. Golf cart friendly all the way to Geneva on the Lake. That's a new development that arranged between the village and the park, and allowing golf carts to go through the park. So now a visitor to our location can drive all the way to Indian Creek, which is, I don't recall now, 2.5 miles maybe or something like that, and all the side streets in between. And that really adds an element to the lifestyle, where you leave the car sitting once you arrive. And from that point forward, you are living out of a golf cart, and you can go to dinner, you can be entertained, and there's all the recreation opportunities. This represents the site plan. I learned yesterday, if you go to Google Earth, you can see what it looked like last June, which is kind of discouraging, but at least it's encouraging to know that in the future it'll be better. It all looked like dirt. So let's talk about it in segments here. This first front segment, and by the way, this is Lake Road through here, and the shoreline is roughly here. The State Park Beach is roughly right here, and the marina is up just a short distance about there. So our guests will arrive off of Route 534 coming down Lake Road and pull in this entry here. Eventually, the way this will be developed, and I say eventually because right now we have a temporary office trailer here and we're building the pool. In time, I think by next winter we'll see these develop at some pace, perhaps all or at least one of those. Those will include various things, which I'll show you in a future slide. But these are the resort amenities, the things that the guests want to be involved in. It creates a village feeling. It is a gated community, so here will be the automatic gates that they'll have the access codes for. And then once they pass through, this section here is largely complete except for some landscaping work. This section is under construction now, but almost to the point where we're in a holding pattern. Kevin and John are here. We've been relying a lot on the Smolin team to help us through these stages, and as they know better than I do, our situation now is just waiting for the mud to ease up so we can put in roadways and pads. But the underground utilities are finished. The grade work is largely finished. The ponds are finished, and so we're on schedule, if the weather will cooperate, to open all of this on May 1st. We may not all have grass, but it'll be much better than it is currently. That will be phase one, we'll call it. It'll take a bit of time to finish the development of this area and to continue back, developing a total of 85 acres and 150 lots total is the plan at this time. That'll use up of that old Deer Lake golf course. It was 135 or 145 acres, I don't recall now. I think it was 135. So anyway, it'll use up 85 of those acres. A lot of wetland areas, a lot of natural preserve areas, and of course all these waterways are new, primarily because we had to raise the elevation of the ground for drainage purposes, and so it was, and we needed ponds for the aesthetics of that. So by combining that made it for a good scenario for us. Entry architecture rendering there. showing a bit of the look, kind of a contemporary feeling. This building happens to represent rentals, tours, a lot of shuttle tours that we'll do throughout the area, not just locally, but into Cleveland to some things as well. But probably 5 to 6 days a week will be the local tours, and then 1 day a week into the places like the Museum of Natural History or Rock and Roll Hall of Fame or things of that nature. So a lot of tours and rentals like boats and golf carts and bikes. Down through here will be things like real estate, office, mailroom, laundry, you name it, admin offices, sports bar, maybe a bump out cafe of some sort or coffee shop. So quite a bit of opportunity there. This rendering aerial from the back of the property looking toward the lake shore kind of shows the spaciousness of the lots. A lot of that dictated by the wetland and natural areas that would need to be worked around, but also it's what our guests were looking for, so we believe that's a good mix. You can see numerous loops as it winds back. But right now, from here, this is basically the breaking point of the development for up to that direction. That entry, I've already kind of touched on this, but you can see as you do enter some of those things which we talked about down this side, entry gates, pool and spa, activities and park, and clubhouse and event space on this side. A lot of that driven by the pace of sales and the rentals. So I don't think I explained enough about that. Our guests, my job is to make sure we have a lot of renters, and those fill our funnel, our sales funnel, which drops down into sales candidates or potentials. It's not a hard sell, it's not a timeshare, it's not a required meetings type place. It's a place where you come, and we are mingling extreme hospitality with a beautiful environment to do a soft sale on wouldn't you want to live in a community like this. That's the intent. So we will have a lot of free wine and cheese parties and things like that where they mingle with a staff member who knows about the sales opportunities. We'll invite in a lot of individuals, someone representing Underground Railroad or the Maritime Museum or the Train Museum in Conneaut, or a wine connoisseur, and mingle with guests at a wine and cheese party and talk about the area. And we'll take those folks down to the harbor and Bridge Street and do shopping and dining, and we'll just do everything we can to wow them in such a way that they want to be a part of a community like this. So the rentals part is intended to drive those sales, but we do know that there will be many, many people who don't ever buy, and that's fine too. We really want to have a resort for those overnight guests who pull off of I-90 for 2 or 3 days. Nothing wrong with that at all. In fact, from us, from a revenue perspective, it's actually really good too, because they'll take the tours, they'll do all those things, and then they leave, and the next person comes and does the same thing again. So it's not something we discourage at all. We did talk a bit about bungalows, but I'll touch on it a bit more. This happens to be, in fact, in the brochure on the table, you'll see some of this as well. But 4 floor plans that we currently offer: 800 to 2,000 square feet, up to 3 bedrooms, and even a 2-car garage option, with a heavy focus on outdoor living, fire pits, and water features and things like that. Economic benefits, because I knew that with this group that would be a topic, and Greg kind of touched on that, so I wanted to make sure I did as well. It's 150 eventual residences, so it's a 150 house neighborhood, basically, I suppose. So I think that's one way of looking at it in terms of an economic benefit. Everything from tax, construction, and ongoing lawn care and maintenance. Personal services, everybody has to get a haircut and nails done, and they go to the spa, or they do this or that, and so they infuse into the neighborhood or into the community. Those coaches, by the way, have great kitchens in them, but I've been told that a lot of those people don't ever use their kitchen because they eat out every meal. So we'll hope for that as well, because I think that'll be good for our collective efforts. A lot of retail, gas, groceries, tours, and entertainment. I do think that while this will ebb and flow, but I think on average we're going to see 10,000 plus lot nights rented per year. So you might say, how's that possible though, as lots sell? And the way it works is this: if a person buys the lot, they're probably not going to use it 12 months out of the year. Many of those people are happy to put it back in the rental pool, the same as if you went to Hilton Head and rented a condo. Maybe somebody owns that and they use it part of the year, and you're renting it part of the time as well. Works like that. So they put it in the rental pool, we rent it again. And so we're the rental management company for that. Feels no different to them than renting a lot that we own or a lot that somebody else owns. It's still a rental lot. So we'll still maintain a pretty high level of annual lot nights rented, even while there are more and more of those sold.
So those will be lots rented likely with the bungalows built on them, or just a vacant lot, or they have
Both.
lots that would access the
Yeah.
residents as well?
You know, it'll depend a lot on what the owners want, but typically not with the bungalow. Typically, they rent the lot with all of the highly developed exteriors, the fire pit, an outdoor kitchen if there is one. They have the use of all of that, but we're not right now structured for them to rent the bungalow. But everything's possible. Yeah, it'd be a probably different pricing model and one that will be addressing that. I believe I'm to the questions point. That was really great timing, JP. So I'm sure I've talked fast and overlooked things. So yes, Kevin.
Eric, is there a need to provide motor coach mechanical maintenance?
There is. There's a number of services like that. So motor coach mechanical maintenance, for example, I've been reaching out a little bit. No, I don't have somebody yet, but I need those types of resources, people who could come on site and do some mechanical repairs. Same as washing coaches. At the Michigan property, there's an outside company, 2 people who work full time washing coaches, washing and waxing, and they just go through the whole park and they just wash, rinse, repeat, and they're just doing that all day long, all through the park, because people don't want them dusty or they've come in from a long road trip or whatever. So there's those services and others. I'm sure tire services. So yeah, benefits there.
Will there be, will it be permissible for people that have a bungalow to put it up as an Airbnb, or would that be restricted?
You know, we're cautious about how that all develops because we don't want to lose control of the nature of the community. So if at some point it's available for the public to rent, we would manage it for them, and it's required in the homeowner. It is a homeowners association, so that's something we would handle for them and work through that. So it wouldn't be a VRBO opportunity. Now, the other thing that too is a bit of a stickler is that the association requirements, which we wrote, but we think it's the right thing, and it's what the association will want, is that that person renting it has to also have a coach. So that way we don't have, we're not just a rental neighborhood. You know, it remains a motor coach resort in that sense. Which is unfortunate because there's a lot of people who would be interested, and be in that resort environment. But I think it just could evolve in ways that we didn't intend. We'll learn though, and we might evolve too, so and allow some of that.
Some of the additional amenities that are going to be offered, like rental and laundry, and are those going to be provided by outside organizations, or are they going to be provided by the collective?
We intend the way we are set up. I'm going to go back here just a short distance. Is that the homeowners association begins at the gates and back, except that it does include the pool. That way, the association dues are, it's maintaining that as a private space for the association members. But everything in front remains owned by our partnership group, so that we can make those decisions at any point and be flexible and work to create what seems to be the right setting. So for now, what I envision is we will manage and open and operate those, but I wouldn't say certainly don't know that for sure. What we do want is a real vibrant community up there as quickly as we can get to it, so they walk into a village scene. And while at one point, and you even see in the rendering gates right here, and there may someday be gates there, but we really don't want to create a sense that all people aren't welcome. We want a sense that people could drive in and shop, hop on a wine tour or hop on a covered bridge tour or whatever, or come to an event that's hosted in the clubhouse space, and that it is available to the public. So that's the intention right now. A lot of gray area though, I have to admit, so we'll figure that out. What other questions?
No other questions? I have a few.
Okay.
I'm stand up. We got 10 minutes here. I'm going to take advantage of this. So Tell us a little bit about, have you done research to look at what the average spend, so you're looking at 10 to 12,000 night stays per year. Do you have any sense for the average spending per night?
You know,
Yeah.
I only have a sense for it for on-property spend.
Yeah.
You know, so the on-property spend, you know, the lots will average a rental rate of $100 a night, sometimes more, sometimes less. But early on, we'll be actually this year at more like $90 a night. But I think we'll fairly quickly get to around that 100 mark. But then they'll spend in retail and tours. So I'm hopeful that we're at about $115, $120 a night on the total spend.
Great. So putting that into context, we've done some recent analysis for the metro parks on spending per day from visitors visiting metro parks and using our trails. So those folks are spending probably on average around 300. These are out of town people coming into town. About $300 per trip. Right, so put that on top of your rental rate, and let's assume that's even on the low side representing what the spending capacity is for the folks that are coming in here. That's millions of dollars of additional revenue coming into our economy every year. All right, and that doesn't, and so that's more sales taxes, that's more jobs in retail, in all these services. So the impact of this from our perspective, from an economic development, as an economic development engine, is tremendous, because that's, you know, on the low side, tens of millions of additional spending into our local economy. Not to mention, when you look at, so if you look at Petoskey as an example, how many of those lots have bungalows on them, roughly?
Roughly 75%.
All right, so even if you figured an average, you know, ending value of $100,000, which I'm saying that's on the low side, right? At 150 or so lots, that's 15 million of potential in total value there, which again is on the low side. I would suspect if you're getting towards 2,000 square feet, I think we have somebody who knows about property valuation in here. You know, right? But when you're looking at that, I mean, that's probably another 150,000 on the, you know, that's $150,000 of additional taxable value that doesn't leave, right? That's additional value that stays here every day, every year, putting value into our schools, our libraries, our social services. And so there's tremendous impact from a project like this. So obviously I'm being a little bit self-interested in terms of talking about that spread of impact, but the diversification that a project like this brings into our community just leverages those competitive assets that we have, which are our lake, which is our natural resources, in a really, really impactful way. So, so we're very excited about this.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good. We are waiting to see what those property values hold at. Currently, we do have they're all listed, they're all online, there's nothing secret about that, but you know, the average property value, sales price is about $150,000 for the lot. So then once they construct on that, you know, we'll see where it goes. But I met with one couple some months ago, late last summer, and they're excited to build, and the husband said, well, the wife said, what floor plan would we build? And he goes, well, of course, the biggest one, because, you know, somebody's going to do it. It needs to be us. And I said, yes, exactly right.
Well, and I think and you touched on it with some of the examples of people that you've talked to from Long Island and New Jersey. I think what a project like this does is continue to extend the reach of people that we're bringing into our marketplace. I mean, right now, the predominance of, and you would know better than I would on this, having been in the hospitality industry, but I think the predominance of visitors coming in are probably Pittsburgh, Youngstown, Akron, Canton, Columbus. If you looked at the majority, that's probably from that market. And one of the things that a project like this does is it extends that reach of people coming in into the marketplace. So, which is really impactful. All right, I think I've exhausted that. There we go.
Eric, there are some really high-end Windstreams and other RVs out there that approach the $1 million range. Can you explain to us a little bit more why Class A motor coach only? Why?
Well, you know, it's primarily because, you know, oversimplifying, birds of a feather flock together. You know, they you know, people who have one lifestyle like to hang out with other people of that same lifestyle. And on top of that, while there have been so many requests from people who have a great large fifth wheel trailer or a Super C RV, which can be really expensive as well, it's just a niche. And if we stay true to our niche, we believe we have the greatest potential to really appeal to our guests and probably drive values as well, the whole experience.
How do they resell it if they come to the town and resell it? You take
Yes.
care of it, or the realtors do
We do take care of it. Yes, we handle the resales of those, and we do expect it'll happen regularly. You know, it's one of those things that'll
it? They just let you know.
they let us know when it's ready for sale, and our staff is, you know, will. Yes, we'll hope so. We'll hope so. Yes.
I was just curious about job creation for you.
Okay. Sure. You know, we're right now at that really lean phase because we're spending a lot of money and not making anything yet. So living on a dream at the moment. So, you know, job creation right now is really much more heavily on the contractor side, where there's a lot of different entities from, you know, the construction companies that have been involved, not only the site excavation, but the pool, the bungalow, you know, electricians. You just go down the line. There's so many people that have been involved on this already. When it comes to, though, our paid staff, I think it'll be under, you know, this year it'll be under 12 or so, plus our realtors, say 15. I think long-term will be in that 25, 30 range. Yeah, it's a seasonal job too, and that does add some complexity to those hiring those positions, because we have to have a core staff who's full-time year-round in order to maintain that skill set. But we don't expect our owners to use their lots much in the middle of winter. Some will, and I've had a surprising number of calls this winter saying, "Can we bring our coach and spend 3 months?" I have no idea, you know, why. We don't ask a whole lot of questions. But we haven't accepted now, and that actually leads me to say that we have a maximum length of stay, which might seem surprising. But in season, we only allow, if you're not a buyer, we only allow a 2-week stay. Shoulder seasons will allow a 3-week stay. Anything beyond that, with my approval, we could go further, but we'll probably never go more than 30 days. And the reason is we don't want to make it so easy to rent that you'll never buy. So it's a little bit self-serving, but that is the purpose there. Keep them wanting more. Other questions?
Great.
All right.
Well, let's give Eric a round of applause. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Yeah, appreciate it. Well, thanks everyone for being here this morning. And I think next month we'll have representatives from the Ohio EPA coming in and talking about how they engage with us on working on development-related issues. So please join us. I don't know the date off the top of my head, but we'll send up. April 1st. There you go. We're not joking. So, all right. We'll see you then. Thank you very much.